Good morning, traders. It is Friday, March 29th, end of another week. 5:45 a.m. I'm Jonathan van Clute with Stock Navigators, and I just again want to remind you, as I always do, to please do subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and leave me any tickers, or anything you'd like me to look at, any stocks, any futures, any markets that you'd like me to take a look at. I will be happy to consider doing so. So just go ahead and leave that in the comments below, along with any other feedback you may have. And now let's go ahead and jump into taking a peek at what the markets are doing right now. Last couple of days in the S&P 500, market is really trying to cling to this push upwards. It had broke down below the trend line here and now has pushed back up. Whoops, I don't have my invisible ink. Let me fix that really quick, like disappearing ink rather. Great. So the market has pushed it right back up to the trend line now, broke through it, pushing up to test it as resistance. And right this instant, anyway, it is above that trend line. But will it be able to hold? That's what we're going to have to see once the market opens. Right now, as you can see, the oscillator has been just getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and it's continuing to do so. So I don't have a lot of confidence in this move. Maybe it has enough to push a little bit higher, but if it does, we're going to have a serious divergence going on, especially if it can get all the way up to maybe double top, or if it can break this at all on a lower oscillator. That is just a short begging to happen. There's a correction due. And it seems like it's brewing. It hasn't happened yet. Obviously, we've got to see some kind of a sign, a strong sign to the downside. Lately, what's been happening, and you can see it much more clearly on the 60-minute chart. I zoom out a little bit. Is we'll get these pushes up, and then they are just immediately faded off, and that has been the pattern. We get pushes up and then down, things like that. It just keeps happening. So the market is trying really hard to keep pushing itself up. But you can see down, up. That we are going very sideways right now. The last few days on the 60-minute. So it's having a tough time. It's just not really been able to get up through this sell zone and really stay above there. The last times it's gotten above there, every single time, it's just gotten slammed down. So the sellers are very active up here at this level. And unless something really drastic happens to push this market up and hold it up, I don't really see it having a lot of energy left to be able to go a whole heck of a lot higher. So, if this sell-off finally happens, I'm leaning towards something somewhere in this area. Is what I'm looking for, but we haven't really seen it yet. Right now, we've got to fail to make a higher high, and then we've got to break a higher low. So far, it's been continuing to make the pattern of higher highs and higher lows, and it's just not been really giving up on that. So maybe this is the give up. Maybe it gets up here somewhere and finally just gives up the ghost and comes back down. We'll have to wait and see. Or maybe just this morning it just takes off, breaks down, and collapses. Don't know. But certainly on the 60-minute, watch for crosses of the MACD line to the signal line. Watch for a cross of the zero line to the downside. That is what's going to be significant. We get some nice follow through when we see that. Of course, the more it has broken to the upside, the more follow through we tend to get to the downside once it actually breaks there as well. But certainly keep an eye on that type of action. You see the market continuing to go up and then maybe start going sideways while the histogram comes down on the oscillator, and then the MACD line breaks the zero line to the downside. We know that there's going to be some follow through. And then, sure enough, certainly once that happens, then there's no question there will be some follow through, and we get these nice down moves. So that's what I'm going to kind of be keeping my eye on. Is on a smaller time frame, especially. I want to see a divergence. I want to see price trying to make higher highs and oscillator not making higher highs, and that will be my sign that we're getting ready for a pullback. So I see there's a question from looks like it's high. My font is very small. I think it says high. How do you draw the oscillator line? So this is our awesome MACD, and this is something that we cover in the class. And if you haven't attended the class yet, Yeah, I think I remember your name. I think you're on the upcoming class in the end of April, in which case we're going to go into exactly how to set this up, how to create this indicator. This is not a single stock indicator. This is a combination of two different indicators that we have merged together. So we call it the Awesome MACD, and we will be going over exactly how we do that in the class. All right, for now, let's take a peek at crude oil. And crude is really trying hard to break higher. Right now, it's breaking or testing. I mean, technically, I guess it's breaking. I mean, you can see it right there. It has broken this high. The question's going to be, does it hold it? If it breaks higher, comes back, tests its support, and then continues higher, then we've got a confirmation of a continuation. Excuse me, continuation to the uptrend. And that is certainly possible. We've had this nice trend line here that price kind of flirted with breaking, but then really didn't do it. It's gotten back above it again. As long as it holds up there, then this trend can continue. The oscillator has gotten a little bit weaker, but yeah, not hugely. It's not anything that I would classify as a really concerning divergence or anything like that. It's more just kind of sideways. So this market does appear to have some momentum left in it. I don't think it's done with this uptrend. We'll have to see if the sellers suddenly appear and shove the price back down again. But right now, anyway, the buyers are definitely holding this up, and this trend line is proving to be a nice area to buy for a good entry. So we will have to see what the market wants to give. But right now, the uptrend is continuing. It is intact. We do have, however, the MACD signal line action here is not terribly bullish. The MACD line is below the signal line, but it's just kind of flirting with it. So it's kind of right at it actually at the moment. It's sort of turned around and come back up. It's trying to cross above again. So it's a little bit iffy. It could kind of go either way right now. Sellers could show up for sure. It's entirely possible. Now, we also had a bullish divergence going on. We had this low here and then a double bottom there, but on a generally a higher oscillator. This was the bottom here, actually, was back here. And then this test again was on a much higher oscillator. And then we had a break to the upside. And then now this oscillator here tested this area again, and yet it is higher than before. So not surprising, we had a little pop up. And once the zero line was crossed, that was a nice signal to watch for, that we were likely going to get some continuation to the upside, and we have. Right now, on the shorter term time frame, the bulls are still in control. Oscillator is bullish and climbing. MACD line is above the signal line and climbing steeply. Trend is turning and is pointing upwards. We've broken the recent high, so this market is looking like it wants to go higher. We do see right this moment some sellers showing up though and kind of pushing it down a little. So it's going to be interesting to see just how much in the way of sellers are hanging out up in this area here. And we'll have to see what the market wants to do and if there is a considerable amount of selling there or not. Now, we did have a little congestion area back here that I was expecting to cause a little bit of trouble, and it sort of did. Kind of in this region here, market got kind of stuck sideways in here for a while, and right now it's just trying to break higher, but it's not really there yet. So we need to see this ideally break higher, pull back, test this as support, and then head upwards. That is the ideal of what we're looking for, and is very commonly what will happen. So we'll have to see if crude wants to give us that in this market. Taking a peek at gold. Gold got really hammered. It did. I've been saying for a number of days now that this kind of looked like a bear flag to me, and that if we break to the downside, then there's a very good likelihood that we will have some continuation down to the 100% extension of this move here. And just to clarify, this is really strictly 100%. I'm just looking for to use the Fibonacci tool as a flag measurement. So I'm not really using it for the Fibonacci at all. So I don't care about any of those levels. I just care about this 100% extension. That's my only interest there. So right now we are breaking down. We have a little bit of a bounce after that sharp move down, and we'll have to see, does it continue and get us all the way down to 100%. That is what I'm expecting. We'll have to see. Right now, the oscillator did come back up over the zero line again and then fell back down. So right now, we are below the zero line, So that is certainly a bearish sign, a sign of control by the bear side. On the 60-minute time frame, oscillator also below the zero line. However, MACD histogram and test it. We'll have to see what happens when price gets a little closer to that line. We also have this zone from the past that is now going to act as resistance. It got blown right through the lower. What's going to occur? The zero line is what I'm expecting to act as resistance to the oscillator. So as oscillator gets closer and closer, we'll want to keep a real sharp eye on what happens there. Does it stop at it, pull back down? Does it maybe hop over just a little bit? We get just a little tiny move above the zero line and then head back down, or do the buyers decide to show up in earnest? If the broad market suddenly corrects, maybe violently, and has a really big move to the downside, then I could see the argument that people might decide to get to gold, especially because gold has been in this nice uptrend lately, and they might see this as having been a good buy the dip moment, and maybe they jump in there and push this to the upside. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Do we get some continuation to the downside or not? That is what I am looking for. It's what I'm expecting, but we will have to wait and see if it actually comes through or not. Natural gas is continuing to just trickle lower. It's just drifting though. No sharp movements, really no momentum whatsoever. The size of that oscillator is just non-existent. So this is a very I don't know, boring market, I guess, right now. It is in a downtrend. You can see that the downtrend line has been holding. Even when it poked up above it, it immediately came back down again. So the downtrend is certainly intact. The bears are in control. You can see on the 60-minute, the 21 EMA is pointing downwards. The oscillator is below the zero line. MACD is below the signal line. Every sign is pointing down, but there just isn't a lot of conviction. There's not much velocity, not much momentum, not much of anything. So what's going to happen? Are we going to maybe get a very, very bullish divergence, come down and test this low area here, but on a much higher oscillator? Maybe the oscillator gets down to here or something, in which case we've got a oscillator that is steadily making higher lows, even while price tries to make lower lows. That is certainly a possibility here. But right now, there's just not a lot of participation in this market. There's very little range going on and very little excitement over price. The trend on the daily is pretty sideways. It is ever so slightly down right now, just kind of this little gentle dip here. But really, it's pretty sideways, which is a good sign also that there is some accumulation going on, that there's a nice base being established here. And as long as price does not break between these lows, then I would definitely expect to see it be preparing to launch higher. And then we just need to see break these highs, and we have higher highs and higher lows forming. And then a new trend to the upside has begun. So keep an eye on that oscillator and watch for it to break the zero line and finally get a little bit of momentum. And that'll be our sign that the direction in this market is finally starting to establish. And finally, Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is surprisingly is showing some strength. It's really just continuing to push higher. Right now, however, we are pushing up against this downtrend line, and already the sellers came in and have pushed it back down a little bit. We're right up in this sell zone here. So, a very delicate area, especially given that look at the oscillator levels. Price is making higher highs. Right now, the oscillator not making higher highs. So we have a bearish divergence forming. The oscillator is not really confirming this price action. So I'm not wild about this. You can see it here too. If price gets up, closer to here, we'll have maybe a double top going on a much lower oscillator. And whoops, that was a terrible line. Anyway, you get the idea. And we've seen before when price gets up into that region, it just does not hold. So that could easily happen again here too. So we're right up in there right now. It's going to be really interesting to see if Bitcoin can hang on to this or not, or if this is a low risk short opportunity or just a profit taking opportunity if you've got profits. If you're a short-term trader and maybe you bought in somewhere back here or something, or really anywhere along this line here, this might be a good time to think about just grabbing some quick profits, because right now anyway, oscillator has yet to confirm, and it's got a ways to go to be able to get over this level here. So beware of that oscillator. If it does not hold and the oscillator reverses, we start seeing it red and heading down, then we certainly could be giving back these gains. And especially if it then comes down and breaks the zero line, then we really know that there's likely to be some follow through to the downside. So just watch out for that. All right. I think that is about it. Take one last peek at the S&P 500, and we've got a short-term time frame divergence going on here, though. Price is making higher highs and failing to make higher highs on the oscillator. We are also in a previous sell zone right there. So right now, there's that level. That level right there is a good oscillator top. And if price cannot hold above this area, if it gets stuck right here, then we've got a really good indication that it's probably or so wants to give us. Much as I've said earlier in the any strong push up, I'm expecting it to get faded. That means getting traded the other direction. I'm expecting to see any. We'll have to see if that actually occurs, but that's been the pattern. So I'm really watching for one of these kind of things, and then slam it back down again. I'm looking for that type of a repeat, or here push up, slam down, push up, slam down. Anytime the market's pushed up, it gets smacked down. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing here this morning. We'll have to see how the action plays out and what it wants to give us. All right, well, that's it for me this Friday. Again, Jonathan Van Clute with Stock Navigators, reminding you to please do subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I know there have been some more recent subscribers recently, so welcome. Nice to see you all here. And leave us feedback. Please do leave your comments. Let us know what else you would like us to analyze. If there's any tickers you'd like us to take a look at, anything that would help you in the markets that you track and in your trading, please do leave it in the comments below. We would love it. All right. Well, until Monday when I do this all again, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you have a good day of trading today. And till next time, trade well.